G'day and welcome to the Inforunners. I'm Execute, joined today by Daily Noob and Badgers. We were going to record this yesterday, but Badgers had a day, didn't you, Badgers? What did you do yesterday that made us not record this today? Yes, I'm naming and shaming you. What did you do?
I did some things and had the stuff with the what's-its and yeah.
The cake.
He did yesterday what I'm doing today.
Yeah, and the candles and yeah, that stuff. Yeah. So yeah.
I just inverted my photo again.
And then, you know, on top of that, couldn't get SA to turn up for this one. He's the ground combat guy. So I thought, you know, I've got one guy that knows a lot about ships and nothing about land combat. So I thought I'd get a second one that knows a lot about ships and nothing about land combat. And maybe between the two of them, they would be able to help me out. So Daily Noob is also
things about land combat.
Yeah. So Daily Noob is also a Navy guy. But just as the joke I made earlier was it's more dinghies than real ships because he's from Australia. We don't have real big ships down here, obviously, but so I don't know. Do you want to tell people a little bit about your just a snippet of what kind of ships you're on in the Navy, Daily Noob?
I know a whole lot about nothing. So the ships that I was kind of involved with is the Huon vessel, which is it's a vessel which has a very flexible hull. So if a mine goes off, it can absorb a lot of the shock with that. And that's kind of really all I can tell you about what I did.
Okay. That's interesting, though. It's like, for some reason, I'm envisioning like an accordion ship going, but anyway, I'm probably wrong. All right, real quick.
You're going to encounter this a lot, like, mate.
No, I don't. I'm not a military guy at all. Right, anyway, if you like this type of content, don't forget to like, subscribe, ring that notification bell. We're doing a bit of push at the moment to try and get some extra subscribers. Get those numbers up if we can. All right, cool. All right, with that then, today is going to be our first impressions of the Storm. I don't know, so I guess I'll kick it off, Badges. What's your initial first impressions? Like when you kind of saw the model or picture or the first thing you ever saw, what was your first impression of
it? I first thought something from Halo, because it has that kind of feel for me. The Scorpion tank, I think it was from Halo with the 4-track design. I just went, it's the same sort of thing. I think there's going to be a place for it. But for me, again, because it's ground combat, it's going to be something that I probably look to earn in game rather than go and purchase now.
Pretty much what we said about too. Daily Noob, what was your kind of first impressions?
Looks cool. But for me, it's definitely an earning game thing because like all ground vehicles and ships and stuff like that, they're so cheap. Like you do a day's worth of cargo running, you can buy all of them.
It's a terrible YouTubers. You meant to leave that stuff to the end because now people know they're just going to leave. It's fine. Right. Bye. But, so my first impressions of it was, cool, I'm Batman, you know, like that type of thing. So I was just like, yeah, because the Tumbril Tumbler is what I call it. But yes, it is very cool looking. I do have a lot of doubts, and I did talk to SA about it, and his thoughts really do kind of reflect my own, but we'll get into that in a bit. So 2 seconds. Okay, I think he's got a doorbell. We'll find out. Yeah, so in regards to the actual tank, now you've actually had a more of a chance to look at it. Is there a benefit and a drawback to you, or what do you have a concern, Daily Noob?
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of how you get in and out of it from the front, personally. Because if I get into a fight, let's just say with another one of these, and I lose, which is likely, I'm going to get shot getting out of it. Whereas if I could get out of the rear entrance and I had a railgun, I could then use my wreckage as cover and shoot back, still have a fighting chance. But not the way it's set up, not at all. Like if it's beneficial if you start to lose in this thing to turn around, which is not great. It's never good to like enforce that type of.
Maybe that's why it's that way, because you're meant to run from other tanks. I don't know.
Well, they did describe it as something that you zoom around the battlefield, flanking positions, strike, and then get out of there. But still, like it's just weird to me that would be a design.
Yeah. For me, I really wish they'd let you lie down in it, like the Batman Tumbler. That was really weird seeing Badgers just walk out of nowhere. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, to me, I really wish you could lay down in it, basically. And yeah, that's my main concern with how you get into it. Badges, we're talking about how you
Yep.
get into it. Is there any concern for you how you get into it? Because well, I'll let that real quick, Noob, just say what you said again, basically, like how you get in.
Yep. Yeah, so you get into this thing from the front, by my understanding, and you know, if you're on the losing end of a fight and you're getting out of that thing, you're going to get shot. You know, and that's not brilliant.
Mhm.
Where if you had
Yeah.
like a railgun on you and you got out at the rear, you could use your own tank as cover and maintain fire. But like it's just they really missed the mark on that with the design.
Yeah, I mean, it's a problem that's not too dissimilar to most main battle tanks, in that the minute you get out, you go from this armored behemoth to an absolute target for everyone that you've been annoying over the last hour or so, and everyone will just have a pop at you. There are only a certain amount of vehicles that allow people to disembark at the rear in terms of the crew, and you're talking like the armored fighting vehicle, also the infantry fighting vehicles. So vehicles that are part transport, part combat vehicle, and you'll tend to find that they can get out. I think it'll Warrior specifically for like the UK Armed Forces. It's the one you might see. There's a picture of them. They've got a British flag there, and they've got their kettle and their tea making facilities in the back.
Of course.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. You know, we've got to look after ourselves.
So undisciplined.
I understand that. But the reason I brought it up is because with the Nova, like UX at the back, it's already in the game. Like it's already a proven and decent design choice. And just why they didn't do that as well on this has got me like very confused. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Like as I was saying, I said to Daily Noob, maybe it was a part of the design because you're meant to be running away from other things, so it kind of is at the back, if you get what I mean. Like you're running away. But yeah, I don't know. I guess we'll find out in the interest of time.
I think it almost speaks to the idea that the ship design philosophy that they have is carrying across, in that a lot of the multi-crew ships you access at some other random point, whereas single crew, often you're just climbing into the cockpit. And I know that doesn't hold for all of them, like the Vulture, for example, but for the combat, certainly for fighters versus anything else. And maybe this is a case of the Nova was built the way it was, not because the back was a combat choice, possibly, but it was just how do we get 3 crew into a vehicle? So maybe what they weren't thinking it from that point, and
well, it makes me
maybe
wonder.
They'll have some.
Makes me wonder what the medium tank's going to be, because you've got the Nova at the heavy with 3, a light with 1. So the medium, does that mean we're going to get 2? Like logical kind of conclusion there. Yeah. Daily Noob, one of the things you talked to me about too earlier was the 4-track design is something that's come up a few times. Do you want to speak about that a little bit? You were talking about real life and stuff.
Yeah, you can briefly touch on it, but I've learned a lot of this through people who've dropped in my stream, because I'll be honest, I don't really know a whole lot about tanks at all. But the quad track design, I've seen it in a lot of like tractors in real life, but there's so much more like mechanical perfect shot. That is there's so much more mechanical things going on behind the scenes there that we're not thinking about, like in terms of potentially you're going to have another differential, another gearbox, potentially a second engine, or depending on how I've never worked on one, so I wouldn't know. But so there's more to it. And I know in terms of gamification, it means absolutely nothing to no one. But the thing is throughout, other than the fact that it looks cool as hell, we've noticed through history that like if there was anything to this design, our current tanks nowadays would be doing it.
Yeah, I think you kind of hit on it before when we were talking a bit before the show. So we were talking about this. I'm going to show it briefly, right? So we were talking about this Soviet era tank that actually has like 4 tracks that goes completely under it, and you were saying literally it was to do with surface area. Do you want to talk about that real quick?
Yeah. So when you like displace weight over a larger surface area, you're going to have the better ability to not sink into certain material, like mushy ground and dirt and mud. Yeah. All that type of stuff, because you're displacing more weight over a larger, like I said it, like surface area.
Yeah.
And ultimately, like while that's a really cool design, I remember it was like Yeah, anyway, it was towards the end of World War One. I'm pretty sure they had their super heavy terrain tank that Russia designed, and like that thing was quad track design, just like similar to that. I don't think it was that one exactly, but yeah, they were able to traverse shittier areas that the regular, just dual track tanks weren't capable of.
I think you've kind of got it there. Basically, that's just tanks in general. But like when you come back to the actual Storm, it is a lot more like this one here. This one here is a photo we found, and this actually was talking about how this was modified to work in Antarctica. So with the snow, and that is 100% why you want tracks in Antarctica. So you've got more surface areas, so you can basically pull yourself faster. If we actually bring that back to the actual Storm, though, I think. I don't have a good image of it, but basically if you've seen these tracks, they're very similar to the Cyclone wheels, and I think that what they're actually going for here is it's halfway between a Nova and a Cyclone, so it's like meant to be like a fast tank. I think that's what they're trying to convey there. But as for almost like 4 independent wheels that are tank treads, I don't think we've ever seen something quite like that before in any game that I'm aware of. But I don't think there's any real function for it. Like yes, you get a bit more surface area, but because it's a light tank, it doesn't need the full tread. Like I don't know.
No, it doesn't.
Everything I come back to, I just keep coming back to Rule of Cool every single time.
Yeah,
I can't see an actual function for it.
Much like the Scorpion tank in Halo, it's really cool.
Badges, is there anything you want to add there, or do you think it's just really cool?
I mean, I just think at the moment we've only got a handful of planets, and I think the design philosophy here is that no one on Earth is building for environments they're not quite sure of. We know what the Arctic is like. We know what the Arctic's like. We know what the desert's like. We know what the jungle's like. We know what swamps are like. We also know full well that there are places that you just don't put tanks.
So Badges, you want to live out your fantasy on Dagobah as Yoda, and it's going to be your swamp vehicle of choice. Is that what you're telling us?
I'm not even dignifying that with a response.
Actually, you'd be better with one of the hovercrafts with the big fan on the back. That'd be you in the swamp.
So I know I'm going to shoot you with it when I get one. I know until you stop moving, and I'm going to loot you.
Right. Speaking of shooting people with it,
that's a good segue.
Speaking of shooting people with it, I do have a concern about that. And if anyone's ever hovered around the the Caterpillar crash site to kind of lag the servers out and be a prick, you'll all know that when you do that in your ship and you shoot enemies, you can hit them with size 3, size 4, and they'll stand back up. And that is it's a laser cannon, I believe, and it's size 3.
Yeah.
So I don't know exactly what they're going for here, unless they make that specific size 3 way punch way higher than it should, kind of like the Nova tank does.
Well, I also think it's a bit of a nod to the actual Nova tank itself, because that's a size 5. You got a size 3. I think it also means the medium is going to be a size 4. I think that kind of speaks for itself. Like in that screenshot that comes past too, that will come back around again. I should probably just skip to it and stop it, but hang on. This one, that actually does prove what you were saying. So that you get in the front, but it also, just above your head, Noob, it also does show that tank track I was talking about. So you can see it's very cyclone shaped as well. So
one other concern I have is look how massive that thing is. That is not a small tank. Even though it's meant to be a light, fast tank, that is huge. So it's a hell of a footprint.
So let's talk about that, because that's SA's and mine concern. So basically, it is basically a medium tank in footprint, but they've given it the weapons of a light tank. So this thing, you can tell the way they're going to do it is it's going to be speed. They're going for speed, so it'll be quite fast compared to the other two, but it is also almost as large as the Nova. It just doesn't have the height. So without the height on it, this should technically fit into the Valkyrie. Now, whether that's good or bad, it definitely gives a bit of an advantage, but it's not small enough, say, for example, that it's the size of an Ursa, so you can't put in a Constellation or a Corsair or MSR, and that would have been really nice to be able to do that, but you can't. And so does that mean all 3 tanks are going to fall into that large category, even though technically it's a light, medium, and heavy? Like that, it's a little jarring for me. I would have liked to seen at least a slight bit of diversity outside the large vehicle category, but I don't know.
For me, it doesn't look like it gives them a lot of room, between size, like for the medium between the small and the large tank though.
Exactly.
Like it really looks like they're kind of, or what we could be seeing is this is somehow their medium and there'll be a really small tank coming out with maybe a couple of size 2s or something just to go and butcher ground troops.
Also, why would you wouldn't take a lot of these? It's going to make it a more niche vehicle. Like you'd mainly take Novas and just have these as, because that was the other thing Essay brought up. A lot of light tanks are basically escort. They fight on the sides and cover the bigger tanks because they've got the speed. So they basically play as, out of cover. I don't know, Badgers, I put that back to you. Like being the same footprint essentially as the large tank, do you see people taking a lot? I just don't see it.
I think in terms of size, in terms of space in a transport, possibly. What I do notice about this is its silhouette's a lot lower, and you don't have to spend much time to running around on, any of the planets or moons in Star Citizen to notice that actually, if you're a little bit savvy about where you drive, this thing's going to be hull down most of the time. And then you compare the size of the Prowler turret to that autocannon. So this thing can effectively go hull down, stick that turret above.
It does have that arm, doesn't it, too? You're probably right there. It does have that arm.
But even without the articulation, you just find something that the turret can see over. That thing's hull down. When you consider what they're trying to do with cross-section and stuff like that, there is potentially a real use for this. I think for me, the challenge is I really want this to be able to fit in a Valkyrie.
I think it does fit in a Valkyrie. I did say that earlier. Because the width is fine. It was the height that you could never get a Nova tank or the Ballistian, because I think you can get the Spartan into the Valkyrie. I'd have to test that, but yeah, if you can't, you can't. But one thing I just noticed when you were talking about the raising and lowering, that back wheel, so to speak, there, if that articulates, it could almost be like it kneels and raises as well. And that would be really interesting then, because I think you'd be onto something with the whole poking up thing. The turret goes up and down, and if you can, it almost feel like the tank can lay down and kneel up. That would be really cool if that's what it was.
Looking at the size of that, I mean, I can think of a lot of, especially around Jumptown, some of those rocks. This thing's just the perfect size to sit behind it, and all you'll see is maybe the back part of the rear treads. But the other thing, depending on what they do with armor, one of the things that will carry across from very old Navy to modern tanks is the idea of ricochet and glancing rounds off of armor. If this thing's front onto you and it's got something in the way of the lower section, so it pulls up behind a ridge or it pulls up behind a rock or a low wall or whatever, you are going to be bouncing a lot of shots in this, even something from like a Nova, because those shells are just not going to have the purchase to actually go in and penetrate that top layer of skin. They are going to glance off, you're going to take damage, but that and the shields, this is actually going to be, I think you'll be able to disable the turret pretty quick.
So,
but after that thing's going to sit there and just go.
To reflect it back to the Nova, that's the opposite, because that thing's almost like it's a lot more, especially on the sides and stuff. It does have a sliding.
The sides are slab-sided.
Yeah.
So, the worst thing you could possibly do is hit armor at 90 degrees, because that's every joule of force that you're using is transferred into penetration. Whereas you imagine the front of a tank round, you've got something like that that's then hitting something that's slightly angled off. That round is just going to skip. And it was, why. If anyone plays World of Tanks or World of Warships, they'll know what I'm talking about. So that armor in game actually has that. All that remains to be seen is that what they're going to is that what we're going to have in this game? Because if it is,
so I just wanted to call this out because this actually shows what you were talking about. Like it literally is the same height as the Cyclone and almost half the height of the Nova, just in that screenshot alone. So that's quite interesting. So maybe it does have a place. I don't know. Again, I'd probably put this off into the comments because, like, that's the disappointment of not having someone here that doesn't have that military background. But for me, I just wouldn't want to take, like, I would take my strongest thing that fits in that size almost every single time. And I just, say you went in with 10 tonks, you might have 3 or 4 of these, you're just not going to have the same amount. And then the next question I ask is, can you get away with doing things like that in the Cyclone? And I'd say no, because the gun is not as powerful. But again, if you've got a soldier with a, essentially a rocket launcher, can he drive in and do the same job? Can he get there faster?
At this point, you could nearly treat that as the medium size, and the Cyclone armed is like the small size. Because looking at that, there's no room in between that and the...
Yeah. Well, so essentially, that's kind of where I'm at. Like, I think this is more of a medium, that they need to up the gun on it and make it a medium, or they need to make it smaller and keep the gun, right? And that's just kind of where I sit.
The other thing is too, like, it is a bespoke weapon, right? So they could make it as strong as they want for, like a quota size 3. It's like nothing really matches right now. We're not going to see anything kind of balanced until the game's well off from where it is now.
Yeah, and if they want to change it, they'll just make it a size 4.
Yeah, and like the perfect example is, you look how hard the Nova hits, and compare that, and that's meant to be a size 5, right? Then compare that to like the Ion, which is a size 7. The Ion hits like it's shooting marshmallows, and the Tonk's shooting like I'd expect the Ion to. So it's just like all that's got to get redone later anyway.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Is there anything you guys want to add that we haven't talked about? I think that's kind of where I'm at. I did my recommendation, and I know Daily Noob did the same thing. I don't know if it's because I told him or because he did, but I basically picked up an Arrow to Storm CCU for $5. And the only thing I kind of lose is the skin, but I just brought the skin and melted it into buyback. So if I really wanted it, it's always there, but I've got to pay $7 to get it. So I just wasn't sure on this one. I know it's something I'm going to want to play with just to have a look because of that cool factor the badges mentioned. But I wasn't kind of sold on it because it's a vehicle, as you guys kind of both alluded to and gave the game away. But yeah, I don't know. What's your kind of take? I'll put it to you, Badges. Did you pick up a CC or not? Totally missed it.
I've not picked up anything from this sale at all. I just didn't. Not my thing.
You've been a good boy.
I had other things on my mind. Well, I survived another year yesterday. Remark for those that haven't figured it out yet.
Yeah.
And there are other toys.
Cheers.
Cheers, mate. Thank you. I'm only on the Coke at the minute because I'm going to go and look at Animal Friends shortly. No, not the furry type X before we go there.
We know what you mean.
We all know now. We all know now.
Filthy degenerate.
Yeah, I know. I can't help it.
Let us know in the comments below which furry Badges is. Anyway, yeah.
A badger.
Yeah.
Duh.
Oh, God. There is a new emoji coming soon. Anyway, right, yeah. Just Badger's face with a tail.
Yeah. So I am definitely the filling in this sandwich. So yeah, I mean, I didn't pick anything up. Nothing really caught my fancy, but I can see with this, when you are, especially from a Valkyrie, some sort of small mobile force, I think the Storm, when you know you're not up against significant armor opponents, the Storm's just going to be a nightmare. Because your opponent running Tumbrils and other land vehicles are going to have to really worry. Even things up to like the Spartan is going to have to keep a serious eye out for that thing.
It's going to come down to its speed,
I think. Popping shields and tires. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's 2 pictures of it flying. Yeah. 2 pictures of it basically jumping off stuff. So I think the speed is a foregone conclusion.
Yeah. If it is the Batman Tumbril, like it's like in the movies, and it flies around like that, plus it's got some kind of lightning gun. The fact that it's solo operator as well, like it's just that might be the thing. Like if you can take the time to get them all there, and instead of like 3 people rocking up in Novas, it's 3 separate people in Storms. That could be where it's at. It's a numbers game. I don't know. You just changed my thinking on that when you was talking about it. But sorry, continue.
Also, the fact that it's got grenade launcher spouts, so smoke launchers as a decoy. Smoke grenades confirmed.
That is good.
Well, it also has got air brakes, so that means it goes really fast. Like if you've got air brakes on a vehicle, this thing's hooning. Like we'll put it this way: if it gets anywhere remotely close to the Cyclone in speed, I'm not saying it will, right? But if it does, you'd have to. Well, you guys tell me. I think it would have to be faster than the Ursa, but not as fast as the Cyclone. So
I'm of the unpopular opinion that the Cyclone doesn't go fast enough.
probably.
Yeah, I'd buy that.
Mm.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if it goes as fast as the Cyclone and the Cyclone gets a speed boost, and then you look at the Ranger, hopefully it goes faster than both of them put together, just to make it a true death trap. I want to be a temporary citizen when I ride that thing. So yeah, I think the ground vehicles are too slow right now. Anyway, just my opinion. Like, you look at some of those, like the new model Russian tanks, man, they hook. They are fast.
All right, Badges, what would you like to hear from people below in the comments?
What about the people from PMC orgs that are planning to have a ground combat element? What uses for this did we not pick up on? Being not primarily ground combat people, what did we miss? Where's the niche for this vehicle?
Badges also wants to know how well it'll work in the water. All right, David Noob, what would you like to hear in the comments below?
I'd like to know how many people actually just bought one. Just instead of like, I picked up a CCU to it just so I could show it off to stream, just like the $5 CCU from Arrow to it. But like, I'd like to know how many people are just bought it because it's Tumbler.
Definitely speak. It is going to speak to people. Like, certain vehicles speak to people, and it did speak to me. Like, because I'm a big Batman fan, and I was like, oh, okay. So that's why I picked one up, a CCU. I mean,
it's like those Galaxy Brain Perseus enthusiasts,
Yes.
I'm one of them. It's fine.
I'm with two Perseus people. It must be the Navy thing too. Both Navy guys got a Perseus. So what can I say?
Like most people in my stream and Discord and that, they've all enthusiasts of the Perseus. We have a cult going. It's not actually a cult for legal reasons, but yeah.
Yeah, I guess I'll ask is, do you guys think speed is where it's going to be at? And I think the other thing we just took away recently there was numbers. So is it like, is it like a bit of a swarm tank? Because again, I'm expecting that lightning gun, so to speak, that's on it. I'm assuming it's a lightning gun, or they said like energy auto cannon. I thought it would make it a bit. When I was visualizing it, I thought it'd be really cool if it was like the lightning gun that you've seen on the Titan suit guy, in the photo. So it comes in real close, and it's more like a shotgun lightning gun that arcs through things and destroys components and all that. It's like really high damage but really short range. So it uses its speed to get in, does a ridiculous amount of damage, and then just gets out, rather than sitting at the back. But now everything you've brought up, Badges, makes me think it's more of a ninja assassin sniper thing, like where it's coming out from behind the rocks and shooting, like an opportunity attacker. So it tries to get a flank, and that is something else they brought up. He said a lot of the light tanks are flankers. They go right round. And, so I think you might be onto something.
You do see autocannons on a lot of our armored fighting vehicles, and they often provide the squad support that normal weapons don't. So when people are hitting a compound and you'll look at their guns going, well, this isn't going to go through the wall, the autocannon pulls up and goes, well, this will. It just levels the compound. And that's the end of that. So it kind of offers that support. But you're talking 20mm, and then if you start putting tungsten or depleted uranium rounds in it, I probably just demonetized us. But oh well. But if you put those style warheads in it, it will go through lots of things.
All I can say is, in a scenario where it was 1 over first 3 of these, I'd rather him be in one of the 3 of these than the 1 over.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Interesting. Learning. That's good. All right. Well, if you like this type of content, don't forget to like, subscribe, ring that notification bell. And thank you for all the people doing the extra mile on Patreon and things like that. So we are always humbled by that. All right. Is there anything else you guys want to add, or are we going to wrap it up? Wrapping it up then. All right, then. Say goodbye, guys. He's been Daily Noob. He's been Badges. I've been Execute. We'll catch you in the next one. Oh, wait. Where do we find people? Where do we find you, Daily Noob, on the interweb?
On Twitch. I got a YouTube as well. It's just dailynoob_D.
Yep. And that's where you send the feet pics, right?
No, to Chris Roberts. I need my cease and desist order from him so I can hang it right next to my computer. All
right. You did that
care of Daily Noob.
Yeah.
Care of Daily Noob. Yeah. Thank you. Right. I appreciate it.
Bye, everyone. Say goodbye. I just say goodbye.
I can't believe you said air brakes on a tank.
They do. They got air brakes, but that's just what it is.